Hey, you songwriter, artist, producer out there, it's time for another creative session in the studio. Yes, it's a good day. In these creative sessions, I like to take you behind the scenes of a project that I'm working on with the goal of inspiring you and teaching you a thing or two that you can add into your production process. And today we're gonna focus on writing vocal melodies. So I'm gonna share 5 tips that can help you come up with really awesome vocal melodies for your song. And I don't like to waste your time, so let's dive in! So let's start off with the instrumentation with the music first. We'll get that out of the way real quick, then we'll move into vocals. So I started with the Beat Machine kit. You can find it under the electronic drum kit and Beat Machine if you're a GarageBand or Logic user. Nothing fancy here. I just like the way this kit sounds. It's definitely a blend of pop and trap. It sounds like this. So nothing fancy at all, just getting my basic beat down, then we'll move on to the bass. And I use the Agile Synth bass. And if you follow me, you know I use this bass a lot. So I go under synthesizer, it's under bass, the first one called the Agile Synth bass. It just has this kind of smooth, warm low end that I like. So again, nothing too fancy there. And then I brought in the beautiful melody, which you can find under synthesizer classics. Go to the top again. So maybe that's the key to great instruments is you go to the top of the menu and you just choose the first one. These are for melodic stabs, which I enter at the beginning of each bar. Yes, so liking that a lot. 3 elements in, we're feeling pretty good. I'm liking it. So then we go down, we have just a few more things. I brought in another synthesizer called the Dream Dancer, which is actually in that same menu under synthesizer classics. You go down to Dream Dancer, and I did this little arpeggiated thing. Wait. Yeah. All right, and then lastly for instrumentation, I have the air bells. So the air bells are actually a synth bell. How about that? You go under synthesizer, bell, you got these cool options. And again, I picked the first one. I'm telling you, that's the best one to go with. So you can hear it in the background. It's just a light little pluck, little stab. Kind of that do. So again, just add some texture, just some depth to it that I think is really nice. It fills in the space in a nice way. So that's it for instrumentation. And before we jump into the vocals, if you missed my last video called 25 Advanced Tips for GarageBand Users, please go check out that video. I spent so much time on it, and it's not just about you watching my video. I'm saying I put so many tips, I crammed them down, more than 25 advanced pro tips into one single video. So if you missed that, I would go back and check it out. And that's why I only had one video last week, because that was a beast, baby. It was a beefy beast to edit that thing. All right, so now let's get into vocals, how to write vocal melodies that fit with your song. Well, my first tip is I like to actually create a track that has a lot of processing on it that helps me be and feel creative as a singer. So if I hit B on my typing keyboard, you can see here that I have some processing. Of course, that processing is gonna have some reverb. It typically has some echo. I do EQ, compression, pitch correction, and I'm not gonna go into detail on how I do these because I have a whole in-depth video on how I mix vocals up at the link in the description. So go check that out if you want to know how I do all this. But this is kind of the first step for me is I create this track with processing in it. And sometimes I'll sing on this track so I can hear that processing, those effects. But a lot of times I'll actually start with a monitor! This is becoming a common problem. I need to learn to turn my monitor off before I start filming. So what I'll do is I will actually create a dry track. This has no processing on it. And so a lot of times I'll just sing on this dry track to make sure my timing's right and to make sure my pitch is on par, okay? So sometimes when you try and sing with pitch correction on, you actually sing more out of pitch than you normally would because you're hearing the pitch correction. But I know a lot of us singers, we love reverb. So if you want to hear reverb as you're recording, but you don't want the latency, that slight delay, you can actually, on your dry track, just add some of this master reverb right here and you won't incur latency. So you've got some reverb, but it's still kind of dry, and then you can still drag that down into your highly processed track. All right, so tip number 2, and this is a biggie, folks. It's a biggie. It's really big. I will come up with 2, maybe even 3 individual unique vocal ideas for each part of my song. Meaning for my verse here, I will create 2, sometimes 3 ideas that I will then interchange out and see which one I like best. So in the case of this song, my first vocal idea was over here. So here's idea number 1. I'll never find secret place. I'll never find back a day. Though I would fall, I would day. Though I would fall, I would day. You wicked, wicked. You so mad, so mad. So I was like, that's cool. I like that idea. I like that. But then I think it was later that night or something, I actually heard this line in my head and was like, yes, that's so cool. So I recorded it into a voice memo, and then I came back into the studio the next day and recorded this.
You didn't know I don't every man, it don't make sense. Vibing up this song and feeling it don't make sense. You wicked, wicked. So mad, so mad.
So if you can hear, the last third of the vocal line is actually...
Wow! Something really weird is happening with my voice. I don't know what it is.
So this last third right here is actually the same as my first idea. And so that's what I'll do. I'll record 1, 2, 3 different parts, and then I'll kind of merge them together and go, okay, which of each part do I like best? And kind of create this grand take from all 3 of my takes. And I also like to do this with other singers in the mix at times. So I'll export them an instrumental version, I'll mute out my vocals, and I'll say, hey, you sing over the top of this. Let's just see what you hear, not hearing my idea. And then after they sing and they come up with their ideas, I put them with my ideas, and sometimes we merge our ideas together to become this really cool sound. All right, so my next tip in coming up with vocal melody parts, and this is so crucial, you need to pay attention, you need to pay attention, pay attention. You need to learn the art of da da da. Yeah, that's right. You need to learn to say da 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 a lot. And what I mean by that is sometimes I can get stuck as a singer not having all of the lyrics perfectly right out there in front of me to sing. And so what I'll do is I'll sometimes say, you know what, I'm going to hit pause on lyrics for right now, and I am actually going to focus on the vocal melody, not on the words, but on the melody that my voice is going to sing. So in this case, I'm not really saying a lot of English. I'm just singing syllables and words that help me find the right cadence and melody for this part.
You didn't know I don't every man, it don't make sense. Vibing up this song and feeling it don't make sense.
So, I mean, there's some words in there, but they're not really ones that I'll keep. And with this, I want to say that lyrics are so important. And there's a time when we need to really focus on lyrics. But there's also a time when we need to focus on the melody of the vocal. And I think we get really distracted and hung up with trying to basically do 2 things at one time. You're trying to come up with lyrics and a melody at the same time. And that can be really tricky. And so I like to sometimes separate those out, focus on my melody first, and then be a poet later and really find the words that fit within this kind of boundary line that I've now created. So the last 2 tips for creating vocal melodies that fit your song kind of go together. And I want you to have this picture of a T in your mind. One side would be the rhythm or the cadence of the vocal, and then this side would be the pitch or the melody of the vocal itself. And for the cadence or the rhythm or the timing of the vocal, that's gonna fall heavily or lean heavily on the beat of the drums. So let me solo the drums, let me solo this lead vocal, and I want you to hear how I'm emphasizing certain words when there's a certain emphasis on the drums happening.
You didn't know I don't every man, it don't make sense. Vibing up this song and feeling it don't make sense.
So rhythmically as a vocalist, I'm trying to do this dance with the drum set, okay? With the drum groove. These 2 should really work well together, okay? But then let's talk about the melody itself and how do I know which note to sing? Well, that's where we can go to our bass instrument and just start singing melodies da 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 over the top of your bass line, because the bass line is, well, it's the bass line. It's kind of the foundation melodically of your song. So if I know I'm singing in line with this bass line, then it's probably going to fit with the rest of my instrumentation.
Vibing up this song and feeling it don't make sense.
So it's hard for me to tell you exactly what to do to come up with a melody line that fits your song, but these are definitely some tips, some hacks that I use when I'm writing a song. I'm thinking about these things. And needless to say, there is a lot of trial and error, but the more you do it, you start to actually kind of hone in on drum beats and melodies, and it actually gets easier and a lot of fun to write melodies that really fit with the context of your beat and your instrumentation. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. Leave a comment below if you learned something cool or if you have a question. And then I want to do something a little different. I don't normally ask for this kind of stuff, but I'm just realizing that, man, it is pretty tough to create YouTube content, to create tutorials, and then also get it out there. So if you're enjoying this content, if you feel like you're growing as an artist, as a producer, then I'm just simply asking you to share it with some friends. That's really it. Because the more people that are connected here to the studio, the more content I can create. So that's it. End of spiel. Thank you guys for those of you who do like and comment and you share it and you're engaged. Really appreciate you guys. And I'm looking forward to making more videos soon.